What's up, Marvelites, and welcome to a brand new episode and a welcome back episode of sorts of the MCUExchange podcast. This is episode 32. Woo! My name
Yeah.
is Aaron. I'll be your host for this episode. Alongside me is Joe
Hello.
and Charles.
Hey, glad to be back.
Yep, glad to be back because we have a lot of MCU news to talk about after a long while. Wow. Let's go to the rundown, guys. But before that, we just want to give a shout out to our listeners over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and Breaker, and Apple Podcasts. Hello there. Please do like us follow us on Twitter. That's twitter.com/MCUExchange. You can also head over to our YouTube account. That's youtube.com/MCUExchange. Let's get right to it. Over to the rundown. First up, major news here for the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Deadline shared in a report that Lovecraft County actor Jonathan Majors has been cast for a lead role in Marvel Studios' Ant-Man 3. Details of the casting is still unknown, but the outlet shared that he is likely to play the supervillain Kang the Conqueror. Time travel, guys. Deadline also noted that there could be a twist with how the character is featured in future MCU films, but Kang is likely to be one of the main villains in the next installment in the franchise. Charles, first and foremost, your reaction to this huge news and what does this mean to the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the addition of Kang as a villain?
Oh my god, this news came out of nowhere. Like out of nowhere,
Yeah.
we just hear Jonathan Majors is
Yeah.
gonna join the MCU. He's kind of like, oh my god, there's so much to take. I've been watching Jonathan Majors since the last Black Man in San Francisco, and he's pretty
Mhm.
great in
Mhm.
that. I watched him recently in The Five Bloods. He's pretty great with that. The late Chadwick Boseman, and Lovecraft Country. I've been watching that for the past few weeks. So hearing this guy that I've been seeing for the past few months make it to the MCU is like pretty surreal in many ways. He's such a great actor that it's kind of a no-brainer that they get someone like him to the MCU because, like I said, he's appearing in more and more films, more TV shows. He's becoming more of a household name. It makes sense for
Mm.
Marvel to get this guy who's really talented while the iron is hot, while he's so hot right now. It makes perfect sense. As for the Kang stuff, man, that also came out of left field because I don't think everyone expected Kang to be the bad guy of an Ant-Man movie. I mean, for the most part, everyone was expecting maybe someone like MODOK to appear because, I mean, MODOK is kind of like the perfect villain to show up in a movie like Ant-Man. Ant-Man has always been weird,
Mm.
funny, quirky, wacky. So MODOK's like a perfect fit. But man, Kang the Conqueror, probably one of the biggest Avengers villain. I'd put him maybe in the top three Avengers villains, or maybe top
Mhm.
five. You've got Loki, Thanos, Ultron, Kang the Conqueror. I mean, he's such an important part of the team's legacy that I'm just kind of in awe of what their plans are. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't even know what their plans are, but just thinking about it, I'm in awe because it means so much moving forward. Kang, after all, he is one of the not only one of the Avengers villains, but he's also a big bad for the Young Avengers. And I wonder, with all talk of with all the discussions about the Young Avengers coming into the MCU and maybe possibly in Ant-Man, I wonder if that's really going to be the case moving forward. It makes sense. I wonder if we're going to see like a younger version of the Jonathan Majors character in Ant-Man 3. You see like a younger version of Kang with Scott Lang, and then the older version of Jonathan Majors shows up and he fucking wreaks havoc on the team. It's so exciting. I am very curious if if the reason why they're bringing Kang into Ant-Man 3 is because of the time travel stuff with Endgame, with the pin
Yeah.
particle. I wonder if there's going to be a
Mm.
connection with that. But then again, I mean, Kang is from the 31st, 40th century. So who knows if pin particles are even still around, or maybe there's a new way of time traveling. I am very curious. I mean, overall, just great news, and I can't fucking wait.
Joe, when you first heard of the news, were you surprised that Kang will debut in Ant-Man 3, or are you expecting that it is expected that he will debut in a film like a quantum realm centered film like Ant-Man?
Um, I was surprised. I was definitely surprised. I kind of thought that he would have a cameo in like Loki, because that directly has to do with time travel and interdimensional aspects. That felt like the one where you would put him. But the more I thought about it, then I realized actually it's such a perfect fit for Ant-Man because of the whole like. I recently got into rewatching Avengers: Earth Mightiest Heroes because the 10th anniversary is coming up, and I remember that the whole point of Kang was he came back to conquer Earth at an earlier time because of an because Captain America's survival shouldn't have happened and it changed his timeline. So I could see like the fact that the quantum realm was how the Avengers went back in time, created an anomaly that he's trying to fix, and perhaps try to conquer Earth earlier. Now the thing is that what I was always curious about is fantastic casting, absolutely fantastic casting, and I'm curious if they will change his origin quite a bit. Because, in the comics, it was like, oh, he may be related to Reed Richards and to Doctor Doom, which was like a never confirmed fact that just he kind of rolled with. But with this casting, especially with the absence of Iron Lad, could we see maybe a connection to another Iron Man inspired hero like Ironheart?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Because the thing is, why introduce Iron Lad and have Ironheart, which was also rumored to have her own Disney Plus show? So what if he's an ancestor of Ironheart, or maybe even connected to Rhodey in some sense? Because a lot of people always think that Kang is blue, but it's just like a face mask, which is quite similar to the one that they used in Avengers Endgame, so they could go through the time travel portal.
Do you think that we will see him before Ant-Man 3, maybe the Loki Disney Plus series, Charles?
I mean, it's certainly very, very possible. I mean, Loki is going to be about him jumping through time in various periods over history and in space. So it makes sense because there's also the TVA, and Kang is sort of the Lord of Time and Marvel. So I am curious if the reason why they're announcing this casting this early is because he's showing up in Loki. Um, because Ant-Man isn't filming until like what, next year or so, or it's not even for the next like 3 years or 2 years. So there's a reason why they're getting Jonathan Majors this early. And if you look back at when was cast or announced, Josh Brolin was announced in 2013, and he didn't show up until like 2018. So you got a character like this, and actor like this, they definitely want to build this character up. And Loki sort of seems like at least for the foreseeable future, the closest, I guess, property where he could show up. But then again, you got the multiverse of madness happening. I wonder if Kang also interferes in that story.
Yeah, I think Charles is on the mark. I think the reason he's being casted this early is because he's going to have cameos. I think he's going to be an overarching enemy. Like, I don't think he'll be the main enemy in Ant-Man 3, because he could be I think there's still a theory that AIM might show up because they were they were in the artwork for Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I could still see AIM return and him have some connections with them, so they could build up that throughout the films. I didn't even think about Madness and Multiverse, because he technically time travel in this version of the story is always connected to other dimensions. So that would also, actually, the more I think about it, it would be pretty cool if he just shows up in that randomly. Like, we see him as some kind of, maybe, wasn't there like a role for a while ago where it was like the provider or the purveyor, where everyone thought it was Norman Osborn? Maybe this is the role he has. Benefactor, thank you. Maybe that's what Kang is.
Oh wow!
Yeah, maybe I'm seeing like the first appearance of Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy, when Thanos is like the background villain, and then Ronan is the one who's doing the work, right?
that would be my theory, and I even read theories where people said that he might be the person who started the TVA to have some control over time and space. Interesting. So there's a lot of potential with this character. Like you said, Charles, it's so cool they're bringing in Kang now. It's the perfect time. They're building up Young Avengers. You have that connection. You have the time. You can do so much with him, and I'm really excited. And this is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people also don't know that Kang, he travels through time, but he's also the guy responsible for giving Apocalypse, you know, not his powers, but more like
Yeah.
the technology that made Apocalypse turn into like the god he is. I mean, he traveled to Egypt during
Wow.
during the what they call the when they were building the pyramids and whatnot, and he sort of became the pharaoh of that time, and he got to do that because of celestial technology he brought from the future, and that celestial technology fell into Apocalypse's hands. So there's so much they can do here. Um, I wonder if there's going to be some sort of like, because it's the multiverse, and I'm pretty sure Kang, if he's already the conqueror when we meet him, I'm pretty sure
Mm.
he's been messing with time too. And I wonder if some of the stuff he did in the past led to the creation of the main Avengers MCU timeline. I'm curious if they're gonna explore that. Like maybe the reason why all these superheroes started existing is because Kang went into the I don't know to the prehistoric ages and fucking messed with shit that would lead to superheroes popping up in modern world.
He
Yeah, maybe
punched
he's also
one dinosaur.
maybe he's also responsible for the Eternals. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, holy shit, that would be
Oh
crazy.
yeah. What if he shows up
So,
in Black Widow? Actually.
oh
I mean,
man, that's a
I mean,
background character.
if he's
Yeah.
showing Ant-Man, I mean, I feel like he can show up anywhere at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a time traveler and all. Yeah, he
Yeah,
can. Any Disney Plus series, Marvel film. It's like he's there monitoring the events, and the inclusion of Kang and Ant-Man 3, provides a glimpse of the future narrative of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it will be interesting to find out how it all plays out in the future.
Yeah.
Next up is another huge news, guys. Wow. We have She-Hulk news, a plethora of She-Hulk news. First up, Marvel Studios have found its She-Hulk. Marvel Studios has cast, a new report from Deadline shared that Marvel Studios has cast Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black in the role of Jennifer Walters or She-Hulk for the upcoming Disney Plus miniseries. And She-Hulk showrunner Jessica Gao has also confirmed Maslany's casting with the following tweet in the previous report. And Maslany and the addition of Kat Coiro as a director and executive producer of the show, and Coiro is known for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That comedic vibe, and the combination of these two is really essential for She-Hulk. And Joe, what do you think about the casting and the casting of Maslany in the role, and also the addition of Kat Coiro as a director?
I think the casting is really interesting. Maslany is fantastic. I mean, I highly recommend Orphan Black to anyone who's interested in that kind of drama. Because I mean, the show she had to play. I don't even remember. I think it was like alone in the first few seasons, with like 4 or 5 different characters that had to interact with each other. So,
Really?
yeah. So she gives an amazing performance, and the thing is, with Kat Coiro, she's more of a comedic director, at least from her history, and the showrunner is Gao is famous for Rick and Morty and animation. So like, this is such an interesting team up that they could really give us a great balance between drama and comedy that I think would make She-Hulk stand out amazingly. I had the theory recently that I think that She-Hulk is a intro as well to the Thunderbolts, because if they go for like the drama with like superheroes, superpowered individuals that she has to represent, that it all could connect to Thunderbolt Ross trying to get a team together, and they're like, these people are being hunted down. That also slowly pushes her to becoming or embracing her other side that she will learn throughout the series. So I'm kind of curious how they're going to approach this, because like, it's also not going to be cheap. I mean, they're going to have to CGI She-Hulk, so how much budget do they have to also introduce Professor Hulk and everything? These series have amazing budgets, but it's still not cheap, So I'm really excited. It's shaping up to be a very interesting series.
Charles, what was your reaction when you first heard the news that Tatiana Maslany has joined She-Hulk as in the lead role?
well, like the majors, I've been sort of following Tatiana since or the Orphan Black days. I watched, I think, the first 3 seasons, and like Joe said, she in that show really proves how great of an actor she is because it's a show about clones, so she has like I don't know like fucking 10 clones in the show, so she's playing like 10 different characters simultaneously, and each one is so distinct and very unique. So yeah, as far as talent goes, I'm really excited what she's gonna bring to Jennifer Walters. Uh, I'm actually surprised at the number of people thinking that She-Hulk should have been played as like a through makeup and practical effects and not CGI because I mean I don't know if it's like a double standard thing, but it's just crazy to me that people don't mind seeing Mark Ruffalo, who's like a very he's not a buff dude. He has like a dad bod. People are fine with him looking the way
Mm.
he is. Fine with Hulk CGI, but suddenly Tatiana Maslany, she's kind of small. She's like 5'4". Suddenly she's too small to play, a fucking green monster, which is crazy to me because if fucking Mark Ruffalo can have a dad bod and be a buff CGI character, then Tatiana Maslany can be a 5'4" woman that can be a fucking CGI monster as well. It should be the same. But yeah, I'm very excited. I guess all that news we've been hearing about, um, it's starting production next year, and this casting news and the director hire, it shows that they're really ready to get this started, and I can't wait to hear more about the supporting characters because I wonder if I keep thinking about Betty Ross and all the other Hulk characters that we never got to see. I wonder if they're gonna return in this show. I wonder if we always hear about Mark Ruffalo being in talks and joining the show. I wonder if he's really gonna be a part of the show. And in the next few months, I'm definitely looking forward to see who they bring in for the cast.
Yeah. Next up on the list is another huge Disney Plus MCU news is Miss Marvel news. In a new report from the Hollywood Reporter, Miss Marvel is now confirmed to be adding 4 directors to helm episodes for the upcoming series. The group includes Bad Boys for Life directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah, two-time Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, and Mira Menon, who has directed episodes of The Walking Dead and The Punisher. So, wow. So 4 different directors helming maybe 1 episode each, or maybe several episodes for this series. Charles, what do you think of this combination? The combination of these amazing directors for Miss Marvel, and are you excited for how the narrative will move forward with them helming the show?
I don't know some of the apart from the Bad Boys directors, I'm not really familiar with the documentarian's work, but the one who directed The Punisher, obviously The Walking Dead, it's a very popular shows. I'm excited for the Bad Boys thing because uh the fact that Bad Boys currently as it stands is sort of I think it's the most successful movie of 2025 by default because of all the COVID stuff. But then again, it's nothing to scoff at because you know I mean, from what I can see, it got really good reviews. It was very well received by fans. People saw it like as a return to form, and surprisingly, it's not by Michael Bay. It's by these two new up and coming directors, and I think that's pretty amazing that Marvel finally got their hands on it. I think most importantly, I am excited that they got Pakistani directors to tell their stories. I think that's sort of the biggest, I
Hmm.
guess, takeaway from this. They didn't get some white guy to tell Kamala's story. They really got people who know and understand what it means to be someone like Kamala Khan, and I think that's very important. And you know, props to Marvel for sticking to this kind of approach.
I'm with Charles. I think the most. I mean, they're great directors. It's a great lineup that promises probably a lot of drama, some creative action is what I'm really looking forward, especially with a character that has these embiggen powers, something that we haven't really seen on screen in the MCU yet. Like, yes, we had Fantastic Four with their Marvel with those Marvel films that try to showcase stretching and fantastic Mr. Fantastic's abilities, but Embiggen is a very unique one. So I'm curious how action directors that gave us really great action with Bad Boys can use that, but also like where I absolutely agree with Charles is that the cultural aspect of these castings, of these director castings, I think is the really significant part, and I'm really happy to see them embrace this aspect of the character, not just of the character, but of the story that it would tell. And I'm really looking forward to see, what perspective they will offer that a lot of us probably haven't thought of, and that's really just the exciting aspect of it.
On the list is another Disney Plus news here, and a good news for Marvel Studios fans because thanks to a new official trailer from Disney Plus, the Marvel Studios miniseries WandaVision is still confirmed to release before the end of 2020. In a quick listing of all the shows set to arrive this year, the new MCU series comes in the near 52-second mark video that was posted in our article over at www.MCUExchange.com. And also, as moments after that, this tweet was also released showing the official release dates for a number of Disney Plus shows and movies. Even though WandaVision was not included, many believe that it will be lined up for a December release. Joe, WandaVision still set for 2020. Exciting news, right? So, do you think that it's likely to be lined up for a December release, or it will be much earlier than that, given the production circumstances and this coronavirus-induced delays we've been experiencing in the past few months?
So the thing is that even though Falcon the Winter Soldier was supposed to come out first originally, WandaVision was supposedly the first one that ended its production. So I still believe that WandaVision has a lot of post-production work, more in comparison to the more action-oriented show with Falcon. But so the biggest hint is that they did include it in their 2020 lineup video. They didn't show any new footage, which was the most interesting aspect. But it was teased with the logo. And we officially got from Disney Plus a tweet that said, the fall lineup up to November. It wasn't included in the list, so the obvious choice would be that it airs in December. And my guess is that they're going to probably now start with The Mandalorian, with the second season that's on end of October. Let that show run out, and probably a week or two afterwards continue with WandaVision. That would be my theory, because they're not going to cut into each other's timing.
So Charles, given that Black Widow could potentially be delayed, what do you think of WandaVision potentially kicking off Phase 4 of the MCU?
I mean, at this point, I know we were supposed to talk about it later, but Black Widow, I think it's gonna be so hard to see how Phase 4 is gonna be mapped out, because Kevin Feige wanted Black Widow to start first, and then Falcon, and then WandaVision, and then I think Doctor Strange or Loki. I kind of forget, but it was supposed to go in this particular order, but now that's been thrown out of the window. I am curious if whether they made adjustments on what to reveal in WandaVision, and how it maybe pertains to, how it possibly could pertain to Black Widow, or maybe Falcon the Winter Soldier. It's they're in a very, very tough place in figuring out how to move forward. Where at this point, I think, it kind of seems like the best course of action is just, fuck it, just put it out. Who gives a fuck if it, if the property that's supposed to come out after WandaVision happens 2 years from now? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because fans, us diehard fans, we're not, we watch these things very closely, and we don't forget easily. So they don't have to worry about us forgetting about what happens in WandaVision when 2 years later Doctor Strange 2 comes out. It's not a problem. So at this point, I'm just glad that, at least for currently, it seems like it's coming out in 2020. It is very interesting that it wasn't, included in the written sort of lineup they put out, but the fact that they were confident enough to put it in this latest teaser shows that, they might just meet this 2022 premiere date.
Exciting news. WandaVision coming out for 2020 after a lot of delays. It's going to be very interesting how this particular show kicks off Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now, let's move on to another news here. Let's move on to another MCU show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's a barrage of set photos and videos in the that has been posted in social media, has been reported by different outlets. But the most notable one is Batroc the Leaper's return. You know, the one that's played by George St. Pierre from Captain America the Winter Soldier that we've covered over at MCUExchange.com. Joe, what do you think of this character's return? Finally confirmed after being rumored for quite some time now.
I love that he's returning. I love seeing like how much did we get from him in Winter Soldier? 5 minutes, 7 minutes, maybe. So I think it's great that he's back in action. I'm really curious how it will tie in. Like, will they start building up mercenary groups? Because I personally hope that he has some kind of connection to Taskmaster as well as a fellow mercenary. So maybe they were planning on building on that if Black Widow came out first. And the thing is, it's just great to see some of these returning characters. And I still think that with the focus on, with Kang coming, with the multiverse aspect, with Loki, WandaVision, where the hell does Falcon the Winter Soldier fit into the bigger picture? Really curious about that. And it's exciting to see these connections return, and that this is doing what everyone wanted Marvel TV to do, to truly connect with the movies and vice versa. It's just exciting.
It's so funny because me and Charles Murphy heard that Batroc returned on set. I think, rather, GSP returned on set last week or 2 weeks ago. So we were just sort of sitting and waiting for these photos to come out. But I didn't expect them to come out this month. I thought maybe these come out, maybe no one would even know that GSP was back. But I was surprised that, oh shit, the photos are out and it fucking looks great. To me, it's very exciting because as a huge fan of Winter Soldier, it's nice to have that thread of continuity, even just with Batroc. Even though Batroc was there for like 5 minutes, I mean that opening sequence will go down as one of the best in the MCU, and
Yeah, I'd
that's
say.
mainly because of how that whole sequence was centered on Batroc. So to get GSP back is very very exciting. I am curious how big his role here is. Um,
Mm.
I wonder if he's gonna be like a big sort of player in this story, or maybe he just shows up for one episode. Maybe he just shows up to pass the mantle on to the next bad guy. He is in a scene with the Desmond Chayam, who is rumored to be one of the bad guys in the show. So I wonder if they're in cahoots with each other, or if this is just like a cameo, because I definitely want to see GSP kick more ass, and it's always nice to see a guy and a character like Batroc show up in the MCU. I hope he doesn't die here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really hope this-
He just keeps returning.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone else gets more power, and he's like, "Oh, come on."
Now let's move on to the movie side of things now for the MCU. Um, Fortunately, Variety is reporting that Disney is likely to delay the release of Black Widow again, which was slated to release on November 6th, 2 months from now. No new date has been confirmed or rumored, with Disney declining to comment. Joe, Black Widow has been delayed. This can potentially be delayed once again because in the past week, Wonder Woman 1984 was delayed to Christmas.
Mm.
Damn. Uh, what do you think about this potential delay? Do you think that it will derail again the plans of the release dates of the other films? And it's kind of it kind of makes sense because WandaVision's already slated to premiere later this year, and now we talked about earlier that there's been a shift already. And what do you think is? Do you think that this delay will benefit Black Widow, or do you think that they should go the Mulan route, like Disney Plus access? Yeah.
Um, like I can only talk from experience. Like what's happening here in Austria is like we had a new spike in cases. So we have jumped from 20 cases to 800. And it's been uncertain. Like cinemas reopened here in August, and still not a lot of people go. There's a lot of regulations, And now they're like, okay, well, you can go to the cinema, but you have to sit there with a mask for 2.5 hours. Who's going to do that if they're already uncertain about the whole thing? So I'll say a delay makes sense if they're really that focused on going theaters only. I do believe, though, that the Disney Plus strategy with the Premier Access is probably right now the best concept to go by, simply because my thing is right now is 2021 is so full of releases. Like every big 2020 tentpole plus whatever was originally going to be released in 2021 with some of the later releases, it's just going to be a slaughter where every film will cannibalize each other, and we'll probably won't see a lot of, like, maybe one or two, but I doubt that we're going to have any major box office wins because this virus is not going to end anytime just in December. So I think right now the best strategy is not to focus on can we still make a profit, but to at least cover costs to avoid any bigger problems. There's been conflicting messages with Disney Plus Premier Access, because when the news came out Black Widow's getting delayed, they said, well, the Premier Access didn't perform as well as they hoped. I personally believe it's mainly because, you advertise, oh, you can get this early, and then, oh, but you can wait 2 months and then watch it for free. That was I work in advertising. That wasn't the smartest move. that's just me. But the thing is that I think Premier Access right now is the safest route. It sends a clear message that they care more about people's safeties. They can avoid getting their films cannibalized and focus on the productions for next year. And as bad as it sounds, and this is the drawback of the MCU, is that a lot of the films interconnect in a way that you can't delay just one. You have to delay them all. And right now, it's probably just the safest option to go with a home release, because there was another report that said they made 250 million, which is way more than what Tenet made. And that just, I think, was the US numbers alone. Plus, they don't have to share half of it with cinema, so that all goes to Disney. So they literally covered their costs for Mulan, plus maybe some marketing costs. So it's a difficult time. It's a difficult decision, but I think my guess would be Disney Plus release on Premier Access.
Because we don't have Disney Plus, it's like it's really hard
Yeah,
to
in
say
the Philippines, no.
or like have a say and how should they do it. I mean, I certainly don't want them. Let's say they announce, November it's coming out of the Philippines in theaters everywhere. I'd be like, well, what the fuck? I can't fucking go to the theater right now because I don't want to fucking
Same.
get sick.
Mm.
So, you know, at the same time, is we don't have Disney Plus, and our only sort of solution to watch is fucking pirate it. Which I'm pretty sure everyone here in the Philippines, and I think a lot of, because Disney Plus isn't anywhere in most places in the world. I think that
No.
sort of disadvantage with Disney Plus, because people are gonna fucking pirate the fuck out of it, because I have a lot of friends that have seen Mulan, and again, we don't have fucking Disney Plus, so they definitely pirated that. And it kind of seems like all the money that Disney made from Mulan was domestic, right? I mean, it could be
Yep.
wrong with that, but it kind of seems like, yeah, it was just domestic. I think the international returns say a different thing, and I think it's telling with how piracy is, and with a very very high profile project like Black Widow. I could bet that that shit would be pirated even more than Mulan. So that's
Probably, yeah.
definitely Disney's problem right now, and I do not wish to be in their shoes. But I mean, Joe made a good point. At this point, you gotta accept that you're not gonna make a bank on any film, but the least you can do is sort of cover the cost you spent. At least maybe break even, or offset some of the production costs. And I think that's the practical thing to do.
The thing is, there's like, even if they do, like, theaters are going to release it in select theaters that are open, so you'll have the exact same issue, just that it was in theaters and no one has a high quality image. There's no winning, that's the problem, because it's just so uncertain. Like, how long will this drag out? What does the future look like? Yeah, that the leaks are probably the least issue right now.
And we have a recently opened drive-in cinema, but saw the photo there. It's not really jam-packed. It just only a few people watch there because
Mhm.
we're all getting cautious about the virus.
I can talk from my own experience. Like right now, a colleague was caught. She has symptoms. We don't know if she does have it. I've met that person last week, and I'm forced to be in quarantine now for 5 to 6 days until we even know if she's positive. And if she is, I'm stuck here for 2 more weeks.
In a recent interview, Olivia Wilde similarly confirms Kevin Feige's involvement in Sony's upcoming Spider-Woman film. This means that, Feige is doing some work for Sony, or is it the other way around? And does it mean that the MCU, is finally the MCU and Sony partnership is finally, being there? Charles, what do you think about this rumored involvement straight from Olivia Wilde?
I saw a lot of people say that, oh, maybe, Kevin Feige may probably gave some notes to for Venom and Morbius, and I'm like, come on, what the fuck?
Mm.
What the fuck does Kevin Feige care about Morbius and fucking Venom? I think Olivia Wilde's comments are very, very telling that Kevin Feige was for sure in a meeting with her. I think that's, if anything, let's say Kevin Feige's not doing anything with the film on a written contractual level. I'm pretty sure that at least Kevin Feige met with Olivia Wilde and was in
Mhm.
those meetings with Amy Pascal and Sony. Meaning, there's some semblance of an involvement with this film because Jessica Drew is one of those characters that are shared by Marvel and Sony. The character has elements that are in the MCU. She also has elements that are strictly with Sony, and you can't have just one half of her character. You gotta have the whole thing, best of both
Uh,
worlds. If this truly is like a collaboration between Sony and Marvel, then the fans win, and the character wins, and Olivia Wilde is a great director. Part of me thinks that Kevin Feige wanted in on this project simply because Olivia Wilde is attached to it. Because Olivia Wilde is one of those directors that is up and coming, very very acclaimed, has a very good eye for talent and storytelling. I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige wanted her for a project, and even if Olivia Wilde wasn't hired to do Spider Woman, I'm pretty sure she'd be asked to direct an MCU movie down the road. So this pairing was sort of inevitable, but I hope that it's really a thing that's happening.
It's a great addition. I think a very like Olivia Wilde directing the film is already a great selling point, and I think the character, like Jessica Drew, is such an interesting character because she has so many ties to what is currently being set up. She's close friends with Carol Danvers. If I remember correctly, she was replaced by the Queen of the Skrulls during Secret Invasion, with Secret Invasion being, planned for the storyline for Captain Marvel 2. It just seems like that it makes sense that Kevin Feige would want this character in the MCU, just for what they're setting up right now. It's really exciting. I think the character could add something interesting. I think it would be a lot of fun just to see the confusion between Spider-Man and her. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a running gag. And yeah, it's just, I love the thing about the MCU. What's so fun is that it can expand. And even if the Sony deal is sadly still, imperfect for as it is, as much as I love the character Venom, I'm sad that I don't know if we'll see it connected to the MCU ever. And I think there's so much potential with a character like that I hope, or I'm glad that Kevin Feige is not just saying, okay, we can only have Spider-Man, but he's trying to at least focus on what kind of story does he want to tell and what characters that Sony currently is holding he can use. So there's potential like what the future may hold for Sony characters.
And wow, that's wrap it up. That's a lot of news, guys. That's total of
Yeah,
8 news. My God, that's a lot of news to talk about. And after a long break, and it's fun. It's weird, before we wrap it up, just want to point out that Marvel Studios tweeted a Black Widow promotional material after 4 months. That total film
Right?
subscriber cover. Wow, that was sign of things to come. That was tweeted last Monday, and after that, a barrage of MCU news just arrived shortly after.
yeah. And apparently next week we're gonna find out who's Kamala Khan. So next week we're gonna
Yeah.
have something to talk about as well.
Yep, Miss Marvel news, exciting, very exciting. Find out, Kamala Khan is in. I've watched YouTube videos of her in Marvel's Avengers game, and she's a very interesting character. Joe, before we wrap up,
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think of Kamala Khan in Marvel's Avengers game, and how do you think that it will relate that dynamic with her during that game with the Avengers? How do you think that will translate to the MCU?
Uh, I kind of like the thing that's a lot of fun about her character in the game. This is a very different group of Avengers. They split apart and are kind of fighting each other. Plus, the key members that we have in this aren't around anymore in the MCU. But I kind of feel like the thing that makes Kamala Khan so interesting is that she's pretty much the insert character for us as a fangirl, someone who looks up to these characters and who has a chance to literally grow into her own to become a hero. And I'm curious about, because the show will certainly be a completely different take. But what I think what the show could do incredibly is kind of say, like Spider-Man, we were introduced to him through Tony Stark. So he was at a different, like his high school life was there, but it was him balancing it out and everything. And with Kamala Khan, it's not just, going to high school, being a superhero. It's also about being very different, and probably also I really hope they do approach it with the Inhumans. Like, what does it mean also to be an Inhuman, to be of a different cultural background, to be a high schooler? So it could be a very, very unique story within the MCU. And with the directors that they got, I think they're going to go all in and not shy away from it, which is fantastic.
It's going to be exciting months or years to come for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's about wraps it up for the MCUExchange podcast. This is episode 32. Please do follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/AaronChino. You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
At that Abel, ThatAberl.
You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at CFSBillionWeba.
And also, please do follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/MCUExchange, and go to our website for all the latest articles of the topics that we covered at www.MCUExchange.com. And bye, guys. Thank you for listening to episode 32. Yay!
Bye.
Till next time.